You're standing on the river steps at dawn where the Thames should smell like water, only it doesn't. It smells like wet rope, fish rot, and something sourer
Fresh
underneath,
oysters.
baked into
Get
the
your
mud.
oysters here.
A
Mind your
lighterman
purse,
spits
sir.
into the current and watches it vanish, not knowing the river is about to start killing his neighbors, quietly one cup at a time. Ambience, distant gulls, oars creaking, muffled market cries. London, 1832. The city is bigger than it has ever been, growing faster than its streets can carry and faster than its drains can handle. Smoke from thousands of chimneys hangs in the air like a ceiling. The new bobbies walk their beats in blue coats, trying to impose order on crowds that keep multiplying. And somewhere beyond the horizon, a disease has been moving like a rumor you can't outrun. They call it Asiatic cholera, a name that sounds distant, foreign, someone else's problem. But today, you're walking through London hour by hour, river wharves to rookeries, pumps to workhouses, hospital wards to graveyards, 7 stops morning to night. Because the city believes the danger is in the air, bad smells, foul fogs, miasma. But the real danger is simpler. It's in the water you drink when you're thirsty. And London hasn't understood that yet. It's early, the market day begins before the sun fully commits. You move toward Billingsgate where the sound arrives before the smell, shouts, boots on wet stone, crates slamming, the metallic clatter of hooks. Then the odor hits, brine, slime, fish scales crushed underfoot, and that persistent Thames undertone, mud mixed with the city's waste. Ambience, shouting vendors, cartwheels splashing water. A woman in a shawl sells sprats from a basket. A porter carries cod on his shoulder. Their hands are red with cold and salt. Pence matter here, not in theory, in hunger. A loaf of bread can decide whether a family eats twice today or once. A cup of small ale can decide whether a laborer keeps going or stops early. A boy with a pail squeezes between legs and barrels. He's not carrying fish. He's carrying water drawn from a public pump inland, sold by the bucket because clean water is work and work is money. You watch him and feel the first thought tighten. The city is built on the Thames, it eats from the Thames, it drinks from the Thames, and it also dumps into the Thames. But London calls that normal. Somewhere upriver, a sewer mouth burps into the current. In the shallow brown water, the surface film moves like oil. No one looks directly at it for long. No one wants to believe the river can be both lifeline and weapon. Not yet. Mid-morning you find a public pump, iron handle, wooden trough, a small queue. A woman fills a jar, a laborer takes a fast drink from his hands, a child splashes the overflow and laughs. The water tastes fine, they say, colder than the air, cleaner than the river because it came from a pump not straight from the tide. But London's water is not one system. It's a patchwork: wells, pumps, private companies, river intakes, stored cisterns. Some people get clearer water, others get whatever reaches them. And the city has a blind spot. It can imagine dirty streets making you sick. It can imagine foul air making you sick. It can imagine vice making you sick. But it struggles to imagine invisible contamination, something you can't smell, can't see, moving through water and striking like a trap. So the pump remains a social center. Gossip passes faster than any disease. Someone mentions cholera in a hushed voice. Another shrugs. Bad air, they say. A foreign plague, keep your windows closed. If the threat is the air, why do the cleanest houses still lose people? No one has that answer yet. By midday the sun lifts higher and warmth makes everything louder, the flies, the smells, the anger. You turn down a narrower street where the city's waste becomes visible. A backyard privy leaks into a shallow pit, a ditch runs along the edge of the road. A thin stream, gray, slow, finds its way toward a drain and toward the river. A cart arrives with men who do a job most Londoners refuse to talk about. They work late when they can, but the need is constant. Buckets, lids, rope, a practiced rhythm, waste hauled out, sloshing heavy. The smell is immediate and physical. It isn't just unpleasant, it coats your throat. And it confirms what London already believes. Of course, disease comes from filth and stench. The proof is all around you. So when cholera arrives, the city focuses on what it can control. People scrub doorsteps, they scatter lime, they burn tar, they keep vinegar cloths at the nose, they open windows for fresh air or nail them shut to keep the poison out. The city fights cholera with smell. But the enemy doesn't care about smell. What if the worst danger isn't the stink you notice, but the contamination you do? Afternoon, you reach a rookery, one of those dense pockets where London's growth has turned into pressure. Rooms subdivided into smaller rooms, whole families in one space, beds shared in shifts, clothing that never fully dries. Visual tight stairwells, damp walls, ragged blankets, faces half-lit by a window. You feel the heat of bodies packed too closely and the sour mix of sweat, coal, smoke, cheap gin, boiled cabbage. A mother waters down broth for her children. A man comes home from a workshop with hands blackened by labor, leather, coal, ink, whatever the city demands that day. There is no buffer here, no savings, no distance. Cholera doesn't strike evenly. It finds the places where clean water is least reliable, where waste is closest, where people can't afford to flee. A neighbor whispers about someone who collapsed in the night, vomiting, cramps, skin turning cold, lips tinted blue. A body can look like it's fatting while it's still alive. And then comes something darker than disease, suspicion. When people don't understand a killer, they invent one they can see. They blame doctors, they blame officials, they blame outsiders, they blame the poor themselves. You can feel that energy here, anger that comes when suffering feels targeted and explanations feel like lies. When a disease hits hardest where life is already hardest, how do you convince anyone it isn't deliberate? Late afternoon, you pass the walls of a workhouse, brick, stern, practical, a building designed to make poverty manageable and unattractive. Inside, bodies are already weakened, malnutrition, exhaustion, chronic illness. A new disease doesn't arrive to a blank slate, it arrives to a population already frayed. Outside, an official notice is pasted, advice for preventing cholera, cleanliness, ventilation, remove filth. Visual handbill fluttering on a wall. Local boards of health become visible in the streets, inspectors, officials, men with authority and no certainty. They clean, they fumigate, they instruct. But the cases keep appearing. And here the tension climbs, because London still doesn't have the key insight that later generations will treat as obvious, that contaminated water can carry death from house to house. So every effort feels like it's missing the target by inches. People begin to choose extremes, either total obedience to sanitary rules or total rejection, because if the rules don't work, what are they for? If every cleansing ritual fails, what does the city do next, reform or blame? Dusk approaches, the light turns gray and thin. You enter a hospital ward, beds close together, sheets damp, the air sharp with vinegar and fear. Ambience, coughs, murmured prayers, distant footsteps. Music sparse, unsettling. Visual, lamplight on pale faces, a basin of water shaking hands. Cholera is not like a fever that lingers for days, it can be fast, violent, the body empties itself until there's almost nothing left to empty. A patient's hands claw at blankets, another stares, too weak to speak. A doctor, coat stained, eyes tired, tries treatments that belong to a world still guessing. People want action, families want a ritual that means we did something. Outside the ward, a relative begs for water. Water. The very thing that can be fatal if drawn from the wrong place. The doctor warns about bad air. He orders windows opened or shut depending on his theory. He insists on cleaning. He offers certainty because that is part of the job. But certainty is in short supply. What happens to a society when expertise can't explain the pattern, and the pattern keeps killing? Night falls, London changes character after dark. The streets dim into shadows, lamps are few, the city becomes pockets of light in a sea of black. Inside homes, tallow candles burn with a greasy smell, families eat what they can, bread, broth, maybe a bit of ale if money allows. And then the bells. Not celebratory bells, bells that mark another death. Cholera changes funerals, burials become hurried, bodies are moved quickly. People whisper about pits, about graves dug fast because the dead are arriving faster than ritual can handle. That speed creates more fear, not less. People suspect bodies are being hidden, mishandled, treated like cargo. Grief turns into suspicion because suspicion feels like control. The city is tired, the poor are exhausted, the wealthy are anxious. And the Thames continues to move, black water reflecting scattered lights, carrying waste downstream, carrying the illusion that the city can dump consequences into the current and never see them again. You stand again at the river's edge and listen. Ambience, water lapping, distant cart, a shout far away. Visual, moonlight on polluted water, silhouettes of bridges. No one in most of the city is thinking about water pathways, intakes, contamination chains. They're thinking about smell and sin and foreignness. London sleeps, convinced it understands what's happening. It doesn't. By midnight, the city sounds normal again. A cart rattles over cobbles. A watchman calls the hour. Somewhere a baby cries, somewhere a couple argues, somewhere a man drinks because he can't do anything else. And the most frightening thing is how ordinary it all feels. Because most Londoners still believe the killer is the air. They don't yet understand that the Thames is not just a river, it's a system that connects everyone, rich and poor, clean streets and dirty courts, pumps and pipes and cisterns. Tomorrow, someone will draw water and think nothing of it. And the day after, a household will lose 3 people before dinner. The city will keep cleaning the smell, while the invisible route remains open.